What is up, bro? Happy 4th of July. And on this special day, I think it's an excellent time to make a video about ULTY and explain the new strategy that YieldMax has implemented and how great this fund is. But before we jump into ULTY, I just want to talk about the American ingenuity and American spirit that has allowed this product to even exist. I mean, talk about payouts that exceeds 50, 60, 70% yields. No other country in the world could ever come up with this. Only in America could come up with 100% yielding financial instruments. And even Europe, they see how great this stuff is, and they beg YieldMax to bring their products over to Europe because they cannot come up with anything that's like that. Okay, so bro, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. It really helps the brother out to build the channel, to have more people watch the videos, so I would really appreciate that. With that said, this video is not financial advice. The YieldMax tracker tool that I will be using for this video, I built it so I can predict how the YieldMax funds will do, how much money they will pay in the next distribution, and track their trades and their holdings and all of that good stuff. But this tool is not to tell you to buy or sell the stock. Before we begin, I just want to quickly kind of talk about my idea about ULTY and YieldMax in general. So we have 27 amendments to the Constitution in our country, and the 27th amendment, I think, should be repealed. It is the Congressional Compensation Act or whatever. I don't think Congress should be compensated for enriching themselves off our backs, especially people like Nancy Pelosi, who does like all the inside trading. Instead, I think we should, number one, replace the 27th amendment with a Nancy Pelosi Act that forces all the inside traders, all the Congress people and senators to post all their trades even before they make them. Like, hey, bro, I'm gonna buy 1,000 shares of Nvidia, but first I post it on X. Okay, yeah, I think it should only be limited to X, no Facebook, no Instagram. They have to post it on X because X is the voice of the freedom. So before they make insider trades, let everybody know so we can follow them into the great ideas that they have from sitting on all the committees and all of that good stuff. So get rid of the 27th Amendment, get rid of the congressional compensation because those schmucks only waste our money and enrich themselves with inside trades. So replace it with the Nancy Pelosi Act of 2025, force every member of Congress and Senate to publish their insider trades before they make them. But after they publish them, they have to make them. And so we can follow them and make ourselves rich as well. Okay, and then guys, bro, if you have any connections with Trump, if you like know somebody who's buddy with Trump, I want to propose a 28th amendment, and I want to call that a maximum yield act of 2025, which will basically, I want to give every American 1,000 shares of ULTY and 1,000 shares of msty, so we can all be rich and collect the monthly dividend exceeding 75-80%. You know, and that would be great. Then we will have no poor people in this country. Everybody will be happy. And after that, uh, I think we don't need to do any more giveaways, any more handouts, no welfare, no nothing. So if you have connections with Trump, you make sure that that it happens, and so that all these 18-year-olds who never worked a day in their life, or maybe worked as a babysitter or like a couple days in McDonald's, you know, serving burgers, so they can have a startup portfolio and become rich by the time they retire. Or maybe the 30-year-olds who like, okay, I'm tired of working at 30, I want to retire right now, and so they have it set. And that $1,000 that Trump proposed for all the newborn babies, I think that's child talk. Yeah, just give everybody 1,000 shares of ULTY and 1,000 shares of msty, and we will all be happy. All right, but with that said, bro, again, happy 4th of July. So let's begin. So let's talk about ULTY and their new trading strategy. So in March, they filed a new prospectus. And to be honest, I didn't read that because, in my opinion, it's more important to see what they actually did as far as the new trading versus what they say they would do. And so with that, let's take a look. This is their current holdings. And I want to concentrate on this blended IV. So the blended IV is the combined IV of the stocks they hold and the options they trade. And so right now we're sitting at about 72%. And let's take a look at 6 months ago in December, before their new trading strategy. You can see the blended IV was about 52%. And I'll show you that basically down below where we have our stock holdings, I added this IV column for the stocks that they hold. So let's expand this. And you can see I marked them with two different color shades of green and also different boldness. And so basically the way it works, if it's over 50%, it's this darker green. If it's below 50% IV, then it's then it's this black, bolder black. And then if the IV of the stock they hold is higher than the blended IV, so again, our blended IV is 72%. And if the IV of the stock they hold is higher than the average, it's this bright green, super bold color. You can see most of their holdings now are at above 50% and or higher than the blended IV. So this is a big change in their strategy. What this means, why I concentrate on the IV. So the higher IV or implied volatility of the stock means they can collect more money when they sell covered calls against those stocks. And in perfect reality, it would mean we can make more money on selling options. So at the same time, what happens is sometimes these stocks, they run away from us and we lose money on the options. But that's a whole different thing that we will discuss in this video. But bottom line, they significantly increase the implied volatility of the stocks they hold, but they didn't increase the volatility. They just started trading higher IV stocks. And if we look back at December cycle, if we look back at the holdings, you can see there's a lot of black over here. So the IV of a lot of these stocks is below 50%. And there's very few stocks that are above blended IV, and also only a couple of stocks that are above 50%. So at least half of them are below 50%, and that brings the average or the blended IV down to 52%. So also cannot control the implied volatility of the stock. That is controlled by the market. However, they can choose different stocks to play with. And so later last week, they still had some lower IV stocks like MU or Micron, but they sold that. And right now we're sitting basically on all of the stocks above 50% implied volatility. Majority of them are above, or a big chunk of them is above 70%. You can see there's 100% IV here, 88, 90. Hood is like 84%, which is completely insane. It used to be in the 50% range. So one thing is the market, like Hood has been pumping, and it benefited us, holders of ULTY, in a great way. Look, you can see here, we're sitting on a $69 average for our Hood holdings, and the current price is $94.40. So at the end of the day, we're basically sitting on $100 million unrealized gain for the fund, and that means 73 cents per share unrealized gain for the whole, for every ULTY holder. For every share of ULTY, there's 73 cents of unrealized gain. So basically, if you buy ULTY right now for $6.30, the cash portion of that is 73 cents. Well, it's not really cash because until we sell, we don't realize that, but it's implied into the price. And so the rest of it, the 555, is the realized portion of that. Bottom line, the current strategy is working better than before. We can also look at the option holdings, and now they're also doing over here poor man's covered calls, which I also like. Bro, actually poor man covered calls is one of my most favorite strategies. So they do it on RH. I wish they did it on more stocks, but basically what it is they bought this in the money covered call. Okay, they bought it, and now it represents ownership of the shares. They don't really own the shares, but they can buy those shares for $180, and current price of RH is 207. So basically they're sitting on a $27 gain for each of those, but they still had to pay some money for those options, and I calculated the average cost of those options to be about $18, $19. So but current price is 27, so we're sitting at about $8 gain for each of those options. And so what they do is they use this covered call, they use this long call. Well, it's not very long, it expires next week, but they use it as if they have options, and so against those they sell covered calls. Right here they sold a $202 covered call, also expiring next week. So that's also in the money already, but since their average price or break-even price is below $200, they'll make money on this when it is either closed or when it is rolled. They're still going to make money, and they collected some money when they sold the covered call. So the poor man's covered call strategy is excellent. I wish they did it more. So here we have the same thing going on with VRT. I don't think they actually hold any VRT. Yeah, they don't. So they do poor man covered calls on VRT stock and on RH. They should probably do more of it. There are some downsides to this strategy. It works in a bull market. Or another thing which I would do, but again, I don't give them advice. But what I would do is buy longer duration leaps, like say a year out in the money leaps. Yes, they're more expensive, but you can collect money on those for a long time, and sell covered calls out of the money covered calls, collect the cash. And if the covered calls are not exercised, you can sell the next batch every week and so on, and you can collect cash long time. But it is what it is. They buy short duration calls and then they sell covered calls against them. Poor man's covered call strategy. I love it. They do it on VRT, on VST. Other than that, the new strategy is not super different from the old strategy, but back 6 months ago, the options they bought and sold always represented the stocks that they hold. But now you can see here they do AMD, we have some AMD puts. However, we don't hold any AMD stock. And also the same thing with RH, with VRT. We don't hold the VRT stock. I don't even think we hold VST. Yeah, we don't. However, we're running poor man's cover call strategy. And so this allows us to collect more money. And then when those are excised or rolled over, we still make money because right here, the VRT covered call is $12.84 below the current market price. The VST is also like $22 below the current market price. I'm not sure how much they paid for it. We need to add it into the we need to add another column for the cost basis of all of these options. So that's in the future. But I think right now, the fact that we have a much better picture, we have this IV column over here that shows how volatile these stocks are. So in a bull market, that means we make more money selling covered calls. All right. And that's what basically helps support the NAV of our beloved ULTY. Basically, the market is going up. They're sitting on their stock holdings. And as you can see, we're up $100 million on those stocks. And that represents unrealized gain of 73% for each share of ULTY. By the way, bro, I wanted to show you on Friday, or on Thursday rather, look at the jump in outstanding shares. People are piling in. Now, I already talked about it, but I want to show you again. I really like this. So this guy right here, I showed it in my previous video. I calculated he collected like almost $27,000 in 1 week of dividends. And so I divided that by the dividend amount. It came to 310,000 shares. And actually at the time, I didn't see his second screenshot where it actually shows the number of shares that he has. $2 million is worth of his portfolio. And bro, I divided at the time, it was the total outstanding shares of msty were like 122 million shares. And this guy was holding almost a quarter of all shares of msty or ULTY. Okay, but check this out. This guy has 14,900 shares that he just bought. Over here, this guy actually made an update. He bought another 5,000 shares, and so now it's 315,000. Bro, I'm sort of jealous. Look at this. People are piling into msty and into ULTY. Like this guy, 2,000 shares of ULTY. I think I had another. Okay, yeah. Here's another guy, 50,000 shares of ULTY. So people are loving this stock, and there is a reason for that. Basically, their new strategy is working right now. And while there are some downsides to this strategy, I will discuss that in a separate video with like the risk associated with ULTY. But bottom line, we're in a bull market, and so this strategy is working right now. If or when the market goes down, everybody will suffer, not just ULTY or msty or YMTracker. Every stock will suffer, and we can see that from like the April crash in the market, the Trump tariff crash. Everything was down. Like you could buy Microsoft on a sale, you could buy Amazon for $165, you could buy Palantir for $65. You know, you could buy Robinhood below 30. Right now it was $100 on Thursday or on Wednesday. So yeah, everything goes down when the market drops. But the current strategy, it's working. The stocks with high beta, they go up a lot. One of the things I'm kind of happy and not happy at the same time. So they ULTY, they used to have Circle. They used to own shares in Circle. And they did sell some covered calls against it, but Circle went up to $270 within like 2 weeks of trading post IPO, and they sold it somewhere around $220, I believe. And now Circle is below 200, so it's good they sold it. They could have sold it at 270, make a lot more money, but it is what it is. They got out of it. If Circle drops, I think they'll get back in. At this point, we don't have any Circle. We have Coinbase over here at $253 average, and it's $100 higher, so we're sitting on a nice gain on that one. And you can see here, just overall, there's only 3 positions that are slightly in the red. Everything else is bright green. 100 million unrealized gain, so awesome. Congrats to everyone who is in ULTY. I think this fund will do great long term. Now, probably there will be some NAV erosion because eventually we will have a down market. It's not guaranteed we'll always go up. In fact, what goes up sometimes comes down. But so far, the strategy is working. And in case market drops, they buy these protective puts. And they will capitalize on in the case of market going down and the stocks crashing. All right, bro. So this was like a quick overview, bullish overview of ULTY. And I joined the party. Like I had ULTY for a long time, but I was buying it when it was like 20 bucks. 18 bucks, 15 bucks. I was buying there. I haven't bought it in a long time, but just yesterday I increased my position a little bit. Now, why a little bit? I already have quite a bit of YieldMax different funds, and so I don't want to go super heavy into them at this point at the top of the market. And if or when we have another market crash, then I'll load up. But for now, I have my ULTY. It pays me dividends, and I added a little bit on Thursday, so congrats to everyone. I think we will be doing fine going forward. Okay, bro. So just wanted to give you sort of perspective. We have this calculator where you can compare up to 6 stocks. So it's like 5 stocks you pick, and you compare it against the market, which is S&P 500. And here I loaded msty, ULTY, and YMTracker. And so let me zoom in. This is from the beginning of the year, January 2nd. That's the first day of trading this year. And you can see YMTracker and ULTY basically have the same return. ULTY is like 0.5% higher. msty shows the best return. And now this drop over here, this is because the price dropped after the dividend announcement, but the dividend hasn't been paid yet. And so it's not included in this calculation of total return. But on Monday, we'll be getting our dividend. So this will update and the total return from msty will go up by that dollar that we're missing from the price. All right, bro, thank you for watching. Once again, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Let me know which stocks in the YieldMax family you want me to review. I want to start making some of my own options trading videos because I don't just do YieldMax, I also trade my own options. I made a video about Robinhood long-term in the money leaps, how I do it. And by the way, since then, my leaps, they're up $20 per share since I made that video a couple weeks ago. So yeah, basically I buy long-term call options, like expiring 2.5 years out, and I buy them in the money. And while my break-even price is slightly higher than today's price, for about 60% of the price of the share right now, I secure my placement for the next 2.5 years, and I can sell covered calls against them. The poor man's covered call strategy, it's much more efficient in terms of capital to do leaps and then sell covered calls on those leaps than to buy shares. But the shares, they don't expire, whereas leaps do expire. However, 2.5 years out, I think it's plenty of time for Robinhood to grow. Okay, bro. Again, not a financial advice, but good luck to all the ULTY holders. If you want to try this YieldMax tracker, once again, the last 3 days of our 4th of July sale, 25% lifetime discount and a 1-week free trial. The link is in the description. Just click that and it will apply the discount at the shopping cart. Okay, I'll see you later. Peace.